And then we will be ready to go. We've got participants streaming in. A little lighter tonight, I see, but it's also an important night, so I understand. I'm personally very grateful for the distraction. uh, I've only refreshed the New York Times about 5 times in the last hour, which I think is pretty good.
Yeah, I actually have CNN running over here on the side. I'm going to try not to look at it.
A little lighter tonight. Oh, that is the sound of YouTube working. Hold on. All right, so that's good. Okay, awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. So, for those of you guys watching who are on YouTube who may not know me, my name is Andy Bull. I'm the director of vocal music here at Corona Del Mar High School, and my chair is slowly sinking. So, if I sing throughout the night, I apologize. Welcome to episode 4 of our Finding Our Voice speaker series. The goal of the Finding Our Voice speaker series is to spur conversations about inclusion in the world of vocal music. Some upcoming events that we've got coming down the pike. We're very excited to announce the next 3 speakers of our FOV speaker series. We will be hosting Fahad Siadat, a composer, performer, and founder of Siadat Publishing, to talk about how our cultural assumptions about what makes good choral music have affected the kind of music that gets performed and what we can do to expand our musical palette. And our final FOV talk of the semester on December 17th will be with composer and performer Morris Smiley, who will be talking with us about music as a form of activism. So I hope you'll be able to join us. If you feel so moved to donate to our program, if you're watching this on YouTube, the link is in the description of the video. And thank you for everybody who has already made donations. And if you have questions, we will have a question and answer portion at the end of the presentation today. Don't hesitate to drop them either in the Q&A on the webinar or in the YouTube. We have students monitoring both of those. Just know that if you're responding to something on YouTube, there's about a 30-second delay between what we say here and when it's going to show up on YouTube. So get your thoughts in pretty quickly. And with that, I'd like to welcome our guest. Dr. Christopher Peterson is a professor of music at California State University, Fullerton, where he directs the concert choir and the CSUF Singing Titans. And he teaches undergraduate and graduate classes in choral pedagogy and choral musicianship. In his 30 years as a music educator, he has taught in elementary, middle school, high school, church, community, festival, and collegiate settings. He is also a published author, editor, composer, and choral arranger for Hal Leonard Music Publishers. He is the president-elect of the California Choral Directors Association and has been invited to teach, judge, and conduct choirs in more than 30 U.S. states, 5 Canadian provinces, and 9 countries. Now, all of that would be enough to talk to him about, but the real reason we have him here is to talk shop. Barbershop, that is. I have nobody to blame but myself. For many years, Dr. Peterson has sung bass with the Masters of Harmony, the 9-time International Men's Chorus Champions of the Barbershop Harmony Society. He has also directed the Midwest Vocal Express from Greendale, Wisconsin to 3 top 10 international competition finishes, including a 5th place bronze medal. He has been a course director, instructor for COTS. He is a veteran Harmony University Directors College faculty member and is a certified singing judge. He sang baritone for 10 years in The Management, which is a 1994 NED quarter champion and a 1996 and 98 international quarter finalist. I'm grateful to be able to call him a friend and a mentor. Dr. Christopher Peterson, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Wow. Mr. Ball, you can talk fast.
That
is
true.
Amazing. You've got a lot of those things through it and very articulately too. I want to speak as well as you do when I get older.
You grow up.
And so, hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Mr. Ball asked me to talk about Barbershop. And he also has been giving me some themes about what you have been doing in these seminars, a little bit about diversity, inclusion, social justice, broadly, these kinds of things. And I tried to take my barbershop experience and put it into that lens. And I think I came up with something that I think you'll enjoy tonight. It's going to be a combination of me telling you some things about myself, and then a little bit of some videos that I want to show you that I was able to find that kind of go on top of that. It's going to culminate with a performance of the Masters of Harmony doing their song Too Darn Hot. If you haven't seen that, that's what we won our last championship with, one of the 2 songs. And then I'm going to show you a bonus clip that I bet even my own students don't get to see. I keep this under wrap. And so that's what's going to happen at the end. We'll have some time for question and answer as well. But I'm going to kind of guide you through a PowerPoint that I have. And so let me just get that going. And then there will be a chance for everyone to ask questions toward the end. And so let's go from the beginning here. And let's see here. I think I have to do that afterwards. Hold on one second. Yep, here we go. If for any reason you can't hear me or something goes weird, just let me know, Mr. Ball, and jump right in.
Will do.
And so let's see here. Let's play this from the start. All righty. Can everybody see that?
Yep, we got it.
All right. Well, I like to call this barbershop singing a place for everyone to learn and belong. And so this is my journey through barbershop. So here we go. Let's see here. For some reason, we're not advancing. Hold on a second. Maybe I have to do this. We'll do it that way. So here's a little overview of the things that I'd like to talk about. A little bit about me, not too much, but just some background. Singing as a more and more inclusive activity. I think that is where we're going with singing these days. A little bit of brief barbershop history, and I've got about a 3 or 4 minute little video that the Barbershop Harmony Society put out that I'll show you. And then they have a program called Everyone in Harmony. And I want to talk to you about that in terms of barbershop and its inclusivity. I'll tell you a little bit about some of the things. I'll just thumbnail some of the things that I learned from barbershop, things that barbershop taught me that being a music major and being a professional educator and conductor didn't necessarily teach me. And then I'll tell you a little bit about the Masters of Harmony and the Midwest Vocal Express, the group that I directed, and something that I'm going to call the fish tank. And then finally, we'll have some questions and answers. So let me tell you first a little bit about me. Who wants to sing barbershop? Well, I didn't. I went through college and I did not sing barbershop. I was a voice major and a music major. And then I went out and I taught elementary school for my first 2 years, K-6 elementary music. And then in 1990, when I became a high school teacher, I got a call from these 3 guys over here. And they called me and said, would you like to sing some music this weekend? And I thought, well, I like to sing. And so I said, I sing bass. And they said, oh, we want you to learn baritone on these 3 songs. And they gave me some barbershop music. Now, they were all music educators from Maine, like myself. And I said, sure, why not? And so I went up to the University of Maine for a weekend, and we had a nice time hanging around, and we sang those 3 songs over and over again. And then they asked me to be in their quartet. And I said, I didn't understand this was an audition. And they said, well, it was. And we have lots of shows coming up. We have over 12 shows that are on our books, and we're going to be singing. So I had no idea what this meant. I had been playing drums in a rock band, and I had to quit the rock band to do this barbershop quartet. So now suddenly I was performing and making CDs and doing shows and traveling all over the country and the world with this quartet. And it was a little bit of a learning curve at first, back in 1990 when I started. But I learned and we became champions of our region, and we competed internationally, and we had some success. So I never sang in a chorus though until after I left Maine and I went to Florida State and got my doctorate, and then I became a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And it was then in actually 2001 that I became a chorus singer in a barbershop chorus, and then a chorus director. And then finally, when I moved to California, I became a member of the Masters of Harmony, and we are 9-time champions of the Barbershop Harmony Society. So that is a really quick overview kind of where barbershop went. I didn't want to do it, and then suddenly I was doing it, and then it became part of my life. So how about singing as an inclusive activity? Let's talk a little bit about that. You know, a long time ago in the United States, now we're primarily talking about, there was singing. We know that, you know, the slaves had their songs, and that was the one thing that they couldn't take away from them. And they communicated through their singing and that kind of thing. When it came to the colonists, really males dominated public singing. And that sounds funny when you think about that today, because we don't think of as males as being who sang or who sings right now, right? And then a movement was actually started to encourage women and children to sing because they weren't singing enough. So men were criticized for singing too loudly, too high, too low, holding pitches too long, and using melismas, and not wanting to learn to read music. So in that way, nothing's changed. But there was a shift from male to female singing in colonial America. From the 1700s on, more and more women were singing, but fewer and fewer males were singing. And this wasn't true in Europe. You know, in Europe, male singing continued to be dominant. By the 1930s in America, the data indicate that the sexes were equally divided in in choir membership in American high schools. I found a picture here from right around that era, and you can see, you know, approximately men and women equaling in the choir, and that's what it was around there. But then, after that, by the 1980s, there were 5 women singing in choir to 2 men, and so it was kind of at an all-time low. Kind of in that picture, you've seen it before. A couple of guys and a bunch of girls. And male singing is rarely observed outside of choruses. If you really think about it, you know, we don't hear people breaking into song, you know, at TGI Fridays, for example. Yet in Europe, you hear tavern singing all the time. Service clubs or fraternities, they don't do much singing unless they're like Phi Mu Alpha Symphonia. You don't hear, like the Elks Club, they don't sing. That's what I mean. There's half-hearted congregational church singing. If you go, the choir might sing, but the guy behind you is just sort of burping out something. You don't hear the national anthem of guys getting up and singing unless they're professional singers, right? You don't see the crowd singing along with the national anthem. It's gotten to a point where we just listen to someone do it, right? And so, but barbershop singing is different. This is what I found out about barbershop singing is it's actually a cool thing for really everybody. But when I first started singing barbershop in 1990, it was amazing to suddenly be around a lot of men who were singing. It's a really fun style and men like to sing it. Today's quartets look and sound great. It's become cooler and cooler as we go. Singing together is an addictive activity. I found that when I get to be around people and I get to sing, and especially in a barbershop arena, it's really fun and it becomes kind of almost addictive. If you know about tags, and I know you do have several singing groups on campus here, tag singing is amazing, right? That's where you sing just 2 or 3 measures of a song. Usually it's the end of a song, and you just sing them over and over again, and you sing them because they sound good and they're fun to sing. Another great thing about barbershop is that everyone can do it. And what I mean by everyone can do it is men, women, young, old, any gender, any race, any gender identity. There's nothing about barbershop singing that would keep you from doing it. Mixed quartets and choruses are growing as well. And so while it used to be that we had single sex, male and female choruses, now we're beginning to get barbershop choruses with men and women in it. Europe has been doing that for a while, especially Germany started doing that first. And now we see it all across the world in terms of barbershop singing. A barbershop chorus makes you a better classical choral singer. This is one of the main reasons I think that you might want to do it. If you consider yourself a classical choral singer, as I did, I'm going to tell you some of the things. I'll just thumbnail, but it's a nice list of things that I think I've learned from singing barbershop. So let's do a little brief barbershop history. It started really with African Americans harmonizing first, and I don't really mean the slave songs as much as we mean actual quartets that would harmonize together and sing these kind of Tin Pan Alley songs in the late 1800s and so forth. But then it was revived by white American men in 1938. O.C. Cash in Tulsa, Oklahoma, got a bunch of guys on top of a roof. They had dinner and they started singing songs. And then it became something that women did. And then they opened it up to more races. We have to remember that America was very segregated back then. It has a long way to go now. But they allowed all races to do it. And then women had their own groups. The Sweet Adelines International, you've probably heard of. They didn't allow people who were not Caucasian to sing with them initially, which spurned another organization called Harmony Incorporated. And right now there are 2 major female barbershop organizations. But few people know that one of the main reasons that Harmony Incorporated split off from Sweet Adelines, and Harmony Incorporated is smaller than Sweet Adelines, is because they wouldn't allow Black women to sing. And so Harmony Inc. was born. But then they did finally allow them. But that was one of the main reasons. But the Barbershop Harmony Society didn't have a split. They did allow all races to sing in their society. And so one of the great things too about the Barbershop Harmony Society now, you can see their old logo and their new logo, is that it's open to all ages, races, gender identities, voice parts, and they keep politics out of the rehearsal hall for the most part. Part of the code of ethics of the Barbershop Harmony Society is that we don't allow political statements in our contests, and we don't even really want them on our risers. And on a day where we're voting for president, it seems kind of odd. But people that I've sung with in the Masters of Harmony for 12 and 13 years, I couldn't tell you who's a Democrat and who's a Republican for sure, because we never talk about it. So I want to give you a 4-minute little synopsis of the sounds and images of barbershop through history. And so I'm not going to play this whole video, but I want to see if you find it a little bit interesting, and you'll get to see a few of the faces. And notice at the beginning, it really does give homage to the African American roots of barbershop. So I'm going to need to unshare my screen and go to a different screen here. Hold on. And let's see, I need to be in Safari. Here we are. that is not where I want to be. Here we are. All right. So I'm going to play this from the beginning just for about 3 minutes. It's longer than that, and you can find it if you like it.
The old song, the good old song for me. Just follow to say, is there still room for me beneath the old apple tree where there was beautiful song, you great beautiful song, let me put my arms about you, I could never live without you. Peterson law. Sing that barbershop call. That's the thing I want to hear. That fits in the harmony. Yes, me stand off, hit beneath me, that's free. I can play to my song. Yes, to feed me again. Cause Mr. when you start that minor part, I see your finger slipping and a gripping at my heart. Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord. Bright was the night, bright was the night, moon shining bright, moon shining bright, was there I met my sweetheart, till the sun shines Nellie, and the clouds go drifting by. We will be happy, Nellie, don't you sigh. Right over land and sea, yellow moonbeam on the wall. Walk with the gaiety, so take me back to Oklahoma, where the Indian jazz band.
This is the last part. Look at all the places now where the Barbershop Harmony Society has. All right. So just a little walk down, sort of, say memory lane. Sort of, let me go back to my PowerPoint. Let's see here. All right. It's a little bit of barbershop history there. So now the Barbershop Harmony Society has something called Everyone in Harmony. It was a progressive and risky move that they only did a couple years ago. And what they decided to do was to be the first group that integrated males and females into their society. And so it's really in line with the opening to the society with more diversity in the 50s. And so right now, it was a risky move because, of course, there are going to be people who say, don't change the Barbershop Harmony Society. We like it the way it is. But by having everyone in harmony and being part of what they're doing, you know, they're losing some people, but they're also gaining more people. And the idea that everybody should be singing is a really, really wonderful idea. If you want to talk about the ways we come together. You never hear people arguing when they're singing, right? You only hear them enjoying their time together. And so I have a little bit of a video. I'm not going to play all 5 minutes, but I'm going to give you a glimpse of an event that has been done, that everyone in Harmony has been part of. And you're just going to see a few testimonials. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'm going to play a little bit of it for you. So here we go. Just a second. Here we go.
If you can keep some of the lessons that you learned this weekend about how we sing in Barbershop, I promise you, you will be a better singer.
I was just so encouraged and moved, again, by the bravery of these young people to just throw themselves into a style and into vocal musical relationship with strangers in an unfamiliar, perhaps, genre, just without fear.
And wait, and then we're gonna go up, down, and smile. Up, down, pretty hand, smile.
We have to be listening to the lead voices and trying to find our way into their voices to make sure we're matching.
I honestly didn't have any expectations. I tried not to. This is an art form that I'm not used to at all, so like I didn't want to come in there expecting anything. So I was completely blown away by what I saw, witnessed, and what I was able to be a part of. I'm hearing things that like I only really imagine when I'm listening to music, you know, and it's cool.
I just really expected a lot of wood shedding just for us to learn the music. I did not expect to learn so much. I learned a lot of information, a lot of history. My ears a little bit better after this weekend. I learned a lot.
It all started when we attended a lecture by David White.
There we go. I'm going to stop that for now. That's something that you can find online if you want to see more of that. Really kind of a wonderful video. And about inclusion and about where everyone in Harmony is going. So you can get a glimpse into what they're doing. So let's talk a little bit about what I've learned from being a barbershopper, right? And so remember that I didn't start singing barbershop till after I was already a teacher like Mr. Ball, and I was teaching in the public schools as a high school choir director. And then these people made me sing in their quartet, basically. And I say that somewhat in jest because I know I'm so glad it happened, but I kind of got hijacked in there. But what did I learn? You know, I really learned how to tune my voice better, because when you sing a cappella harmony, and particularly barbershop, a B flat as the root of a B flat chord, right, is completely different than a B flat as the third of a G minor chord. But I never really knew much about that. I kind of sang that B flat and I just let it be. But I learned a lot, and I became very consciously and confident about how I tune my voice until I became a better tuner with my voice. I learned how to sing in a quartet. That seems strange that you wouldn't learn how to do that, but classical quartets and barbershop quartets are a little bit different. I learned how to hold my part and to be responsible for my part and making sure that I was the only one that could do it. I learned how to perform better. One of the things that barbershoppers do really well is they don't only just sing the music, but they perform for the audience. And so I made sure that my high school singers and my church singers and anyone that I was in front of as a conductor focused even more on communicating with the audience. And that wasn't something that I gave as much attention to before that. I learned how to work a cappella. I used to use the piano a lot more, and then I realized I don't need that piano because the piano is really out of tune. It's an equally tempered instrument. And, I can teach my students to be better musicians, and working a cappella became a normal thing for me. I learned how to get more guys singing in my choir. I found out that just by making it a cool activity and having fun with them and singing tags, more of them wanted to be a part of it. I learned how to enjoy singing more. I used to sing in choruses, but I want to say I enjoyed it, and I know I did, and I've had life-changing experiences singing in choruses, but I really began to enjoy singing even more when it was a hobby that I pursued with other people who were enjoying it. I learned how to be a better teacher and a better coach and a better choral judge, because all these things are things that I practiced as I became more involved in the Barbershop Harmony Society as a leader and as a teacher. I learned how to make more friends all over the world. It's amazing where I've been able to go because of Barbershop as a performer and also as a coach and as a teacher. And so I've made friends all over the world, and people are just so friendly when they sing together. And I also learned how to arrange close harmony music. And so I have a whole bunch of different arrangements that are published by Hal Leonard and are available out there. You'll hear people singing them sometimes. In fact, I think you guys sang one of mine recently. So let me tell you about the Masters of Harmony real quick. If you don't know about the Masters, we are 9-time international champions of the Barbershop Harmony Society. The way the Barbershop Harmony Society works is when you win a championship, you can't win for 2 more years. You have to step aside and let other people in. And so this chorus for the better part of 30 plus years would win and take 2 years off, win, take 2 years off, win, take 2 years off. And more recently, in the past 5 or 7 years, all the big choruses that won and took 2 years off have all kind of been beaten by somebody, and it's gone into a different kind of a rotation. One of those groups that wins is the Westminster Chorus, and we're kind of big brothers to them, and I know you know something about Westminster. There are lots of amateur singers from all walks of life in the Masters. There are very few professional singers and professional educators. In fact, I'm one of the few. It's a non-political organization. Like I said, we don't do anything with politics or even talk about it. We just love to sing and perform at a high level. We've got young people and old people in that group. And the great thing about singing in a group like this, if you ever choose to, is you can do it at any age. You can do it now if you have the time and the gumption, and you can keep doing it after you graduate from school. You can keep doing it when you're in your career, after you're out of college, even into retirement and into old age. You can be singing in a group like that. So I'm just checking on time. I think I have enough time. I'm going to play you right now the video again. It's kind of video time with Dr. P today. And I'm going to show you one of the songs that we sang when we won our last championship. It was in Las Vegas, I believe. And you sing 2 songs, and there were, I think, 30 different choruses that competed. And those 30 choruses had competed from about 200 choruses to be those top 30. And then, so we came in first, beating choruses from all over the world. So the piece I'm going to show you is called Too Darn Hot. If you look carefully, you'll see me on the first row. In a couple shots. You may go, oh, there he is, if you can remember what I look like. Some of you know me better than others. And so let me show you a little bit of this song, Too Darn Hot, just to give you an idea of sort of the state of barbershop chorus singing as it exists now. And this is our take on it. So let's see here. Okay, so here we go. I will play the song. This one song it's about 4 minutes long, but I think you'll enjoy it.
I got a fever, it's out of my brain. I got a fever so hot that it's driving me insane. The only prescription to make me feel right is chill with my baby, hang with my honey, dancing with my baby when we hit this town.
About 8,000 people in the room.
It's too darn hot to I'd like the sun with my baby tonight. We feel the color with my baby tonight. up with my baby tonight. But I ain't up to my baby tonight 'cause it's too darn hot. I say it's too darn hot. Oh, baby, it's too darn hot. But I know I'd like to coo with my baby tonight. Coo with my baby tonight and pitch the woo right with my baby tonight. Yes, with my baby tonight, I'd like to coo with my baby tonight. Touch the woo with my baby tonight. Whether you find my baby tonight 'cause it's too darn hot. According to the kids who report, every average man you know likes the verses lovey-dovey court when the temperature is low. But when the thermometer goes way up and the weather is sizzling hot, this dance for romance is not. 'Cause it's too darn hot. Too hot, it's too darn hot. So hot, it's too darn hot. All through the day, all through the night. Too darn hot. Baby, it's too darn hot. But I'll never know how much I love you. Baby, I never know how much I care. No, but when you put your arms around me, then you give it that's so hard to bear. You give me fever. When you kiss me, when you hold me tight. Oh, you give me fever in my soul. In the morning, fever all through the night. And when the thermometer goes way up and the weather is sizzling hot, Mr. Adam for his madam, a Marine for his queen, every guy for his cutie pie is not. 'Cause it's too darn hot. I say it's too darn hot. Oh, baby, it's too darn hot. Hot, it's hot, it's hot. It's just too darn hot. Hot, it's hot, it's hot. It's just too darn hot. Hot, it's hot, it's too darn hot. Too hot, it's hot, too hot. It's too darn hot in the night. Oh, baby, it's too darn hot, too darn hot, too darn hot. And you give me fever in my soul. It's driving me right out of control. It's too darn hot, too darn hot, too darn hot. Got a fever all day, a fever all through the night. So hot, all day, all night. Got a fever in my soul, baby, all night. Just too hot every day, and
That's so fun.
Isn't that fun? I especially like the mic drop at the end, with the hat, like we're done on there. And before I talk about the Midwest Folklife Fest, I think that would be a better sort of finale. And I think it might be good to open this up to some questions now and see where this is going. I'll leave enough time. I'm going to show you another performance set, but one that I directed when I was in Wisconsin with the Midwest Folklife Express, because I think you'll particularly enjoy it, maybe because we were a very interesting chorus. It's a different kind of chorus than the one you just saw. So I think that contrast will be nice. So perhaps we could open it up to a dialogue.
Sure. So anybody who's watching, both in the seminar and on YouTube, if you've got any questions, you can go ahead and drop in the Q&A. I have a number that I sort of wrote down as you were talking. So I'll start with some of mine, because part of this whole talk series is a bit selfish because I want to learn more about all this stuff too. So first of all, I couldn't help but notice in that performance of Masters of Harmony, and having just watched a certain performance from the Westminster Chorus about 6 times because I showed it to all my classes, there's a lot of crossover between the singers in both of those ensembles. I think I noticed members of the Newfangled Four in both. So talk to me a little bit about the nature of those two courses, their relationship. We are so lucky in Orange County to be the home of like 2 of the best barbershop courses in the country right now. So can you, speak to that?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And it comes down, I'll talk a little bit about the sort of the philosophy of this, because in St. Louis, there's a group called the Ambassadors of Harmony. They're one of the groups that could beat us at any time. There's a group in Dallas called the Vocal Majority, the Dallas Vocal Majority. They're a chorus also that we've won, that we've lost against, and that we've also beat. There's a group from Toronto, and you go around, some of the major metropolitan areas have these great choruses. Well, one of them is in St. Louis, and their philosophy is they didn't want to create a chorus of young guys that they would mentor. Instead, they kept them all in the chorus. So their chorus is bigger than ours. You know, we're around 100 members, they're around 150 members, including all those young guys. And we made a decision when Westminster came along to get them a charter and to get them sort of their own chorus. And then we became their sort of big brothers and mentored them. And it was possible to be in both, because at first Westminster Chorus wasn't, you know, going to challenge the Masters of Harmony at all in a competition. But it didn't take very long before they got really good. And there was a little bit of a time where they would win one year and take 2 years off, and then we would win one of the other years. And so Southern California had a lock, you know, every 2 out of 3 years on winning these competitions. And some of my friends from St. Louis were saying, we think that it's wrong that they, you know, that it's really one chorus and you're turning it into two. And they thought it would be bad they thought the Master of Harmony would die because all the kids left, kind of a thing. But as it turns out, we think it was the right thing to do, because Westminster's now grown into its own thing where they have, you know, 70 people in it, but the crossover is maybe 15 people. So they really are two separate groups. And we didn't lose all our young guys. And in fact, what we've done is we've trained great leaders within our organization so that they can see how things run and how to be great leaders. And then they take that over to Westminster. And so while, you know, especially the most famous ones, or the ones that you see more often, who maybe are quartetters, you recognize their faces. Most of the people in Masters are not in Westminster.
Gotcha. So great question from one of my students, but also very applicable for me. How can I help more people to sing Barbershop? Just to provide some context, on campus, we during a normal year, which this is far from, we have a lunchtime barbershop ensemble that's open to everybody. We also have a student-run men's and women's a cappella group separately. And Jet happens to be a member of the a cappella group, and I think he's sung in Kings of Harmony a couple times. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, you know, one of the best ways to get people singing is to enjoy singing and to have singing happening around them, right? You know, you tend to join in when other people are doing something. If they say, hey, we're all going to climb this mountain, you're like, oh, I guess I'm coming along. And so that would be one way, is to be sure that you're singing. Now, one great way to be singing is to be singing tags. And now, Mr. Ball, do you have like the easy tags that came from our fall festival and these things? Is that?
I've definitely got them somewhere. Yeah.
Because I recommend those easy tags, and I wonder whether I can pull. Let me just see if I do a quick search whether or not they come right up. If they do, I'm going to drop them in. Yeah, they do. I'm going to drop these into the chat real quick. Can I do it to everybody? Yeah, panelists and attendees, right?
Panelists and attendees.
Okay, let me do that real quick. Oh, and I don't see that I can actually do that. Wait, hold on a second. I can.
Well, if you email it to me, I can certainly send it.
Yeah, it's not giving me a chance to do that. But one of the reasons I wanted to do that is, here's what's great about a tag, everybody. The reason that tags exist is because the song would end and then barbershoppers wanted to sing harmony to the very last note. And in the original music that barbershoppers sang, there were always beautiful melodies that ended on do. And so we would go, do, mi, so, mi, do. Let's say we're here, and the melody might go here and there and whatever, but it would always end on do. And then someone would go do, they would hold that note out, and then the harmony went around it. And so in the easy tags that Mr. Ball will give you and then I'll email to everybody, there's always someone holding one note. So this is how you get people involved in singing barbershop. If you can convince them to take a chance to just go ah on any note, and you're pretty savvy, you can harmonize around that note on any one of those tags. And so once you're in the middle of people singing harmony and all you have to do is hold a note, it sounds really cool, right? And if the end of that tag, you know, and they do a pretty good job, you high five everybody and you go, wow, that was amazing. And you're going to see that person have a little sparkle behind their eyes, like, can we do that again? Most people get that experience. And that's how you hook people, in my opinion.
That's awesome. I'm going to interject another one of my questions. You have been a director of both barbershop choruses and more traditional choruses. What's the difference in the way that you direct those choirs?
Well, one of the things that I would say would be how fast they learn. Barbershop choruses tend to learn music, in my opinion, way too slow. And so they tend to learn music with part tracks. And so everybody's given hopefully a high quality recording where you hear all four parts of the a cappella parts, but one of them louder than the others or separated by stereo. And then people are expected to kind of listen to that and to look at their music and learn. But a barbershop chorus can take a long time. Like they can sing a lot of the same repertoire for 6 months, where most of the groups that I direct are honor choirs or they're my collegiate groups. And we just throw music at you and we say, let's read through it. Like you're not going to get a learning track. You just have to learn to read the music. And so I work with the collegiate groups and the honor choirs. And when I work with high school groups, more like, I want to say trained musicians who read the music and are expected to learn fast. And with the barbershop chorus, we think more about how are you performing, and let's really get into the nitty gritty of how you're tuning and all this stuff. So I treat barbershop choruses more like performers who sing, and I treat classical choirs more like singers who are musicians.
Gotcha. Question from one of my students: is choreography a staple for barbershop?
It is, but it's different from the show choir. If you've been in show choir, you know that there really is sort of like almost dancing that happens. You noticed when I played Too Darn Hot for You, there were people in the front off the risers, and then there were people on the risers, right? I was one of the people on the risers. And I've been in the front row before, by the way. In different years, I've done that because I've sung with them for over a decade. Those people need to be able to dance. Those are the people who the choreographer gives the moves to, and like they need to really know what they're doing. But the people on the risers kind of have to do something similar that looks like it adds to what's going on in the front row. So that's the big difference. You've got the front row performers who are movers and dancers. Then you've got the people on the risers who have to move in time and time their moves. But there's not a lot of dancing that goes on normally up on the risers.
Cool. Where'd it go? I had one. What would you say one of the major differences is between barbershop music and sort of more what she says is regular choral music?
Right. So I'm going to get a little theoretical on you here real quick, okay? And I'm going to turn my piano on too. So a lot of it has to do with a preference for the major chord, and not just the major chord, but the dominant seventh chord. So normally in most music, you have a 1 chord, and then a 4 chord, and then a 5 chord that adds an extra note called the 7th, and then it goes back to 1, right? So this is an example of a 1, 4, 5, 7. You've got 1, 4, then you've got 5 that adds this note, creates this tritone interval, and that resolves to 1. And so if you think of a lot of your harmony, by the way, could you hear the piano all right, Mr. Ball?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, great. So if you think of kind of like your doo-wop singing and that kind of thing, they might do something that sounds like this. Sorry. So they would use the minor chords that naturally occur in the scale. But what barbershop tries to do is it actually tries to put a major third and a dominant 7th everywhere that they can, because they love the way it sounds. It's called tonicizing the key. And so here's an example of what might happen. So rather than, they would go, and instead of going, they would go, then to 5. So you get this. So you get all these dominant 7th chords, and it's really kind of cool, especially when you have 4 people singing, to have 4 different notes a lot of the time. And so that's one of the main things that makes barbershop different. The other characteristics that you kind of have to make a barbershop is it needs to be a cappella. You've got to have 4 voices. Even if you're in a chorus, by the way, a chorus of 150, they still sing in 4 parts. And the melody needs to be in the 2nd tenor, not in the 1st tenor. In most collegiate glee club style things, like classical men's chorus, the melody might be in the baritone or the 1st tenor, but it's not as often in the 2nd tenor. but it almost always is. It can skip around to other parts, but it's primarily in there. Those are the big differences.
So, question that I have. And you've been in barbershop for about 30 years now. In that time, collegiate a cappella became really popular. How has the rise of collegiate a cappella, which is another a cappella style, sort of fed off of barbershop or influenced barbershop? Has there been any interaction between the two that you've noticed? Like, what does that relationship look like?
Yeah, the cool thing about collegiate a cappella is that you have groups of like 8 and 10 people. They're a lot bigger normally. They're not quartets. So it tends to have its own different thing. And they also have their own societies that they go around in. The collegiate a cappella, groups, they have their own summits and they do their things. And it tends to be more people kind of oohing and eyeing and someone doing, vocal percussion and featuring a soloist and, and someone, with a bass line. You almost need to have microphones to make it really sound right in an auditorium, where a quartet can just stand and sing maybe into one mic and all the sound comes out that way. They tend to they don't have a lot of crossover in that if you're a contemporary a cappella singer, you're going to your own conventions. And if you're a barbershop singer, you're attending the barbershop conventions. The contemporary a cappella groups tend to be like a little more hip, just in terms of pop culture, like on The Voice and Glee and these kinds of things, where it just seems to be a little more accepted because you're singing pop songs, you're singing Journey songs and that kind of thing. Where barbershop is going to be singing really cool melodies and songs from the 30s and jazzy things now, which have come in. But really, it's kind of, you're sort of one or the other. It's sort of like football or baseball in a way. They're both sports, but they kind of have their own worlds.
Gotcha. Question from Jet again. What's your favorite barbershop song?
Wow. Well, I'll give you 2 answers on that one. Number 1 is the one I'm singing. That's what I always say. I like the one that I'm singing at any given time. And there were so many beautiful songs, and I can think of great performances that I've heard. There's a song that I heard the Dallas Vocal Majority sing a long time ago in one of their contests. And it was How Deep is the Ocean? I don't know if you know that song. It's an old song. How far could I travel to be where you are? And how far is the journey to a star? And if I ever lost you, how much would I cry? How deep is the ocean? How high is the sky? Is how that goes. Beautiful words, and they sang it so beautifully. And actually, in the thing that I'm going to play for you, I probably should play that soon. It actually quotes How Deep is the Ocean. You'll hear that in there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so we have some of our students who came into our program through our barbershop chorus and things like that. For some of the students who might be interested in continuing barbershopping after they graduate from high school, if they stay in the area, what does it look like to audition for the Westminster Chorus or the Masters of Harmony? Like, where do they get that information? And what would that look like?
Sure. The first thing to do is to go to their website, find out where they rehearse and when. So Masters, when we've been face-to-face before COVID-19, we're Wednesday nights at 7. I think Westminster is Monday nights, maybe at 7, something like that. And locally, right here in Anaheim and Santa Fe Springs. So you would visit first. You could just walk in. You don't have to let them know you're coming. You show up and someone should greet you and give you a name tag and find out who you are. And then you get to kind of sing with them, or maybe you want to watch in there. But then when you visit again, they start realizing, oh, this person might be interested in being part of this. I think it's on the 3rd time that you can audition. And every chorus has a different audition process. For the Masters, you have to learn a song that we give you the learning tracks for and everything, and you have to be able to hold your part in a quartet and do a pretty good job. And that's how you get in. And then you have to pass a visual audition, a vocal audition, and there's a few other things too that you have to do. So they have a process, and we have a whole team that guides people through. And so once you've done those things and passed all your auditions, then you're a member, and you get to wear the outfit and learn the songs, have access to all the learning tracks and everything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then one more question from Emma. Do you prefer older or newer styles of barbershop in terms of music?
It's a great question, Emma. Again, I kind of like both. The old standard barbershop does have a place in my heart. And when I say that, we're talking about if you can think in your head of like, sweet Adeline, my Adeline, my Adeline, and all that kind of thing. That's old-fashioned barbershop. And if you think of Too Darn Hot, like you heard the Master of Harmony sing, that's kind of the newer style with like, jazzy rhythms and really complicated stuff. I really do like them both, but I wouldn't want to have one or the other only. I think that the style has progressed to keep it interesting and to include other things. The hallmarks of barbershop are still there. I heard it said once that barbershop is evolving in the same way the soapbox derby has evolved. And I don't know if you know what that is, but soapbox derby, it's in the Midwest, it's a big thing. They used to take old soapboxes and they'd sit kids in it and they'd put wheels on it and put it at the top of a hill, and they would race down the hill just using gravity. And they'd have a stick that would slow them down so that they had some way. They had like a little break. And now they still have soapbox derbies, but now they have these beautiful aerodynamic polyurethane shells on them, and and they wear the helmets and everything. It doesn't look anything like it used to, but it's modern and it's exciting. But they still use gravity, and they stand there with a break, and that's how you win in the soapbox derby. I think barbershop's the same way. I wouldn't want to lose the old-fashioned one, where you just stop yourself with a stick. But I also wouldn't want to lose the new feeling, like the most technological advances that you could have and still have it be the same old thing.
That's awesome. Do you know, for women in this area, is there a good place for, we've got two great men's barbershop groups. Is there a good women's barbershop group in the area, or a mixed barbershop group?
We do. Yeah, we have a championship group called the Harbor Lights. They're also, I think, maybe like 5-time champions of Sweet Adeline. So we do. Yeah, they're called the Harbor Lights. Same kind of thing. If you look up barbershop Harbor Lights, HARBORLITES, I think. I don't think it's LIGTS. But you'll find it. It'll come right up. Same thing. You'd visit them, and they're wonderful. They're great people, and they sing at a very high level. And by the way, there are lots of other chapters besides those that aren't as competitive and that you don't have to work as hard in. That could be just as much fun and just as much worth your time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this might be a great time to close out on that video you've been promising us.
You bet. Let me tell you, it's going to take, it'll bring us right up to about 7, but I think you'll be entertained by it. So imagine this. I came home to my wife when I was living in Wisconsin, and I said, I just started directing this barbershop chorus that I had been singing in. And we'd been known for doing really crazy things. I'm gonna share my screen just to show you an idea of that real quick at the end of this PowerPoint. And so you can see over here, this is one of the sets we did where we were Green Army men.
Oh my God.
And we even have little surfboards on our feet, and it was the most amazing little thing. And I'm not going to show you that because we did lots of we were known for being really innovative. We were a top 10 chorus from Milwaukee. I directed them. We did crazy things. And so leading into this, I want to say, here's what happens if you sing barbershop for a long time like me and you end up in a fishbowl. Okay, so here we go. So you're going to see me. I'm the starfish.
It's a great lead into every performance.
Yep. And most of my students have never seen this. So you get a chance to see something that they might never see. It's possible. Okay. Can you see this, Mr. Ball?
I can see a play bar. I don't see anything.
Okay.
Representing the land
You see it now?
lakes,
Yes.
Okay.
under the direction of Christopher Peterson.
So this is 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I'll say goodbye to you all.
Express.
About 10,000 people in the crowd. parody of How Deep is the Ocean I talked about.
To swim where they are, and how would I get there? I can't drive a car. If only I could fathom how low I could my same old aquarium, small safe aquarium. So deep, I love ya, still love ya, though I love ya, none above ya. I love ya, I love my deep sea home. I know it's clear to me that it's not safe up there. Pages of the PACI. If you see my mammy's hoping for me, please tell her I'm sorry. I'll live in my glass house and stop throwing stones. I'm better off above the foam. Ever so humble, there's no place like my aquarium.
Well, I can rest easy knowing that when Pixar wants to do their first musical, I know who they should contact. Well done. That's fantastic. Awesome. Oh, you are muted at the moment?
Thank you. Yes, thank you. That was fun. Thanks for allowing me to show that, and also for being able to be your panelist today. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, go ahead and send me the link to those tags, and I'll make sure to forward those to the relevant humans. But it's always a joy to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming out and sharing this hour with me and my students, and hope to have you back at some point. So thank you all for watching, and check us back in about 2 weeks. Bye, everybody.
Awesome. Everybody, thank you so very much. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Ball, for all the time you put in to make these kind of events happen. It's above and beyond the call of duty, and we all appreciate it, and it makes a difference. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care, everybody.
Have a great day.